Good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure to talk to you. It is a pleasure once again to be here in such an important meeting. And I'd like to thank the participation of, and to thank the participation once again of all our dear colleagues, Pedro Passos, who will be with us during this meeting today, Uzi, CEO from SOSA. And I'd like to thank also the participation of Emmanuel Lagarrigue, Director of Innovation and member of the board of Schneider, and also the participation of Mr. Gaus, Norbert Gaus, Head of Research in Digitalization Automation from Siemens. And I also thank Gianna, our Director of Innovation, responsible for all this organization. It is a pleasure to have you all here today in such an important meeting dealing with a fundamental theme for the world economy. We will launch today a partnership of CNI in the entrepreneurship and mobilization towards innovation with SOSA from Israel, which is a reason for us to be very proud and certainly brings us to some, well, great possibilities of helping both Brazilian companies, such as industries, as well as the world economy. We have a program today. We'll start with a brief presentation from Gianna, who will talk a bit about this partnership, and then Mr. Garrigue, who will make a presentation on the importance of innovation in the industrial sector and emerging trends as well. Our dear colleague Pedro Passos, co-founder of Natura, member of the board of Natura, who speak about open innovation. Uzi, head and CEO, member of the SOSA board, who talk about the innovation ecosystems in Israel and the United States, as well as opportunities of partnership for Brazilian companies. Norbert Gaus, head of research of innovation and automation of Siemens, and he'll talk about corporate innovation in industry of the future. And after that, we'll have the opportunity of, well, debating regarding the themes that uh, were dealt here today. I just like to remind you a couple of things. We in 2017, through the mobilization towards innovation, a work that was had by Pedro von Schovsk, we had a disruptive innovation study for productive chains, well, of 10 productive chains in Brazil up to 2027. The study uh, encompassed. At that time, we could not imagine, well, that 4 months ago, just like 4 months ago, we couldn't imagine the moment that we're living right now throughout the world. And in Brazil, it's no different. We have in all economic activities at this moment and in all social activities, we have a decrease of such activities, a perspective that is still unknown of when it will all go back to normal and how it's going to happen. And we have different uncertainties, and people are still um, uh, quite restless regarding everything that is happening, and the news are still coming in. It's all very concerning. On the other hand, we hear news that, well, are quite exciting, of research and studies and activities of some companies that have attempted to find solutions for this moment that we are living in. After this first impact, the companies are starting to study how they're going to return and how we can do that safely, how to work, and how to produce and participate in the world economy, especially aiming at first, well, generating jobs and income, and to bring people the possibilities of, well, being able to attend to their first needs. And this brings some trust towards the future because we start seeing that the work, the research, innovation, and technology, perhaps the dedication of people who are aiming at this moment or looking at this moment in a very determined fashion, this gives us a, well, believe in the future, shows that we have the possibility, and we have important ones for that matter. And we can notice that, well, changes sometimes have come to stay, has changes have come for good. And what I believe this moment has shown, especially in Brazil right now, is the need of an industry that is solid, an industry that has the conditions to produce, to develop equipment, but also an industry that may innovate. Innovation today is in the thoughts and actions of everybody, of the main people with whom we have uh, related to, especially in the Congress and in the government in general, in companies. Innovation is fundamental for us to be able to build an industry of the future and to build conditions in order for the future to be better for everybody. And what we are seeing today is a great partnership of companies towards innovation, and also to help Brazilian companies, the larger, the mid-sized and the smaller and micro enterprises, the startups as well, well, for them to have access to a global platform, a platform that will provide opportunities for companies, for the larger companies to participate in development that are, well, are being carried out around the world, attending to their needs for innovation and technology, but will this will also give opportunity for companies, for startups, for Brazilian startups, for that matter, and smaller Brazilian companies that have a great capacity of innovation and technology into participating in a global platform and through which to offer their products and services for the whole world. I am very, I mean, I trust very well this partnership that we have, and this, and I believe in the success of it, not only for CNI or SOSA, but I have the trust that it will bring results, especially for the Brazilian industry and for Brazilian companies as well. So I'd like to thank the participation of all of you, and I pass the floor to Gianna for her to continue with this great meeting that we're having today. Thank you.
Ativa da CNI. Tel Aviv, Nova York, Londres, Sydney, Bilbao e Colônia. Vamos hiperconectar as indústrias e startups que atuam no Brasil ao que há de mais avançado no ecossistema de inovação do planeta. Lançar desafios corporativos nos principais hubs de inovação do mundo. Desafios colaborativos que reúnem empresas inovadoras com soluções tecnológicas avançadas. Problemas não ficarão sem respostas. Respostas serão dadas a perguntas que ainda nem foram imaginadas. Imersões em loco, rodadas de negócio e investimentos, capacitação empresarial. Se demandas locais pedem soluções globais, a CNI e o SOSA serão os facilitadores que vão levar o Brasil para o mundo, aproximando os ecossistemas do mundo ao Brasil. Dessa experiência, ninguém sairá igual. A inovação tem poder, poder de transformar, ressignificar, de impactar. A busca pela eficiência, inteligência e sustentabilidade são desafios constantes. Juntos, CNI e SOSA têm a missão de acelerar, tornar realidade esse processo. É hora de fazer a indústria brasileira ir além, para ser ainda mais produtiva, mais competitiva, global. Deep Tech, Indústria 4.0, 5G, Big Data, Inteligência Artificial, Segurança Cibernética, Internet das Coisas, Computação Quântica. Vamos construir relações e soluções do futuro, acelerar startups nos principais hubs de inovação do mundo. No mundo pós-pandemia, o conhecimento irá transpor fronteiras. Ideias irão se mover ainda mais, porque a inovação é o futuro da indústria. E melhora o nosso futuro, um futuro diferente. CNI Sosa, liderança global em inovação aberta.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're quite glad to be able to launch this partnership, this strategic partnership for that matter, of the National Confederation of Industries with SOSA. We believe, as Dr. Robson has mentioned, that through this partnership, we'll be able to help companies even more to become more innovative and more competitive. So we believe open innovation is very important to connect companies, the startups, and to create a network of collaboration of institutions, of universities, of companies throughout the world. And the companies aim to bring open innovation or to do open innovation with the objective of course, financial gains, but also strategic ones. So CNI, together with the FSB Institute, they have carried out a survey from the in June of this year with over 400 executives from mid-sized and large companies about their perception on innovation and the current scenario for the industry in Brazil. So I will present briefly some of these results that strengthen our proposal of launching the strategic partnership of CNI with SOSA. Out of these results, well, we can see that over 70% of the companies have been affected by the crisis of this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic. And 65% of the industry has informed that they have reduced or fully stopped their production throughout the pandemic. An important result is that 83% of companies have stated that they will need more innovation to overcome this crisis and to go back to growing and to survive this post pandemic moment. Over 70% of companies have stated that they do not have an open innovation strategy. The industry aims at finding financial strategic gains, but also other combinations through open innovation. Out of the survey, another important result is that most companies have stated to be very interested in to connecting to a global innovation platform, a global open innovation platform. And they believe that through a global platform that may connect them with technologies, with the disruptive technologies, with the frontier of knowledge in the world, well, through that, they will be able to use that in their businesses. Another important result is that 88% of companies have informed that they do not innovate in partnership with startups. They believe that, well, through these connections with startups and through a global platform of innovation, they will be able to, yes, well, to be able to innovate their production, their sales, technology, management, all R&D areas. So the companies do recognize that through a global partnership, they would be able to advance in their strategies and their corporate results. We identified SOSA in the different immersions to innovation ecosystems that we have carried out through the business innovation towards innovation, business mobilization towards that. And we were able to see them in New York and Tel Aviv, and to learn from them the importance of open innovation and take that to companies and to connect not only the mid-sized enterprises and large ones, but also our startups to this global ecosystem. We believe that through this partnership, we'll be able to support companies towards accelerating their processes of innovation and to be fully inserted in this fourth industrial revolution, the digital industry that we are seeing right now. And here are some of the innovation services that we'll be able to offer through this platform. We'll be able to help companies into prospecting the main technologies and innovations that are made available throughout the world. And we will be able to have a, well, sort of curatorship and to accelerate startups through specific methodologies of artificial intelligence and a lot of research around the world. We will be able to connect our companies to what we have as the state of the art in the world, and with different result or reports of market and industries in demo days, and we can do immersion, but now a lot more wide to ecosystems that we are not aware of yet, and we'll have a physical space at SOSA, both in New York as well as in their office in Tel Aviv. As I have mentioned priorly, we believe that this will be a great opportunity for startups in Brazil. We'll be able to offer workshops for upscaling or for scale up, and we'll be able to show in this global network of innovation, and also to insert our companies and startups into this networking from CNI and SOSA. I believe CNI, due to their very relevant work they have been carrying out throughout the last decades of strengthening industries and to be in the forefront of knowledge of what may aid our industry to develop themselves and also to bring the development of the country and bring a better quality of life for our population. I believe SOSA will be a great partner for us to continue supporting companies and also lead them into finding what is the forefront of technology in his life. Thank you. Thank you, Gianna. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for the presentation of this partnership between CNI and SOSA. Certainly, we'll have the opportunity of talking a bit more about it and about the work and the offers of products and services and how to contribute for the Brazilian industries and startups. And I'd like now to pass the floor and to invite Mr. Emmanuel Lagarrigue to to have his presentation on the innovation of industrial sector. What are the emerging trends? Thank you very much for your participation here, Sarah. It's a pleasure and a joy to have you with us. You have the floor now. Thank you.
Sorry, it's better if I unmute. Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be with you today. I'm very happy to be part of this event, and as a big fan of Brazil, I've had the chance to live in Brazil a few years ago, and it was always, as I said, too short experience for me and my family. So I would come back anytime. So thank you very much for this. I just wanted to share with you a few ideas on how we do innovation at Schneider Electric, how we look at it, and how we collaborate also with SOSA and the Israeli ecosystem, which is probably a template for what we could do now in Brazil too. Next slide, please. So just let me share with you a bit what Schneider Electric is about. To start with, usually it's one of the best kept secrets, although both in Brazil and Israel we have a relatively big presence now. Schneider Electric is about energy and automation and digital solutions for efficiency and sustainability. Next slide, please. What we do is energy management and automation, enabling the energy transition and Industry 4.0 in buildings, commercial, industrial buildings, data centers, infrastructures, homes, and in industrial processes. We are here to help our customers, large companies, and many of them are part of CNI, be more energy efficient, be more productive, be more resilient and safe. And resilience is going to be probably a major trend going forward after this pandemic. We all want to go for more resilient energy systems, resilient companies, resilient supply chains, resilient IT systems. And of course, sustainability is becoming also paramount, as this is something that we are all going to experience again. And make no mistake, the climate emergency is here. And we are all mindful that we have to tackle it before it's too late. And we see a huge movement towards this coming up. Next slide, please. As a result, Schneider Electric is present in 20 of the largest oil and gas companies. We help virtually all the data center and the cloud providers with their energy systems and making their energy performance more sustainable and more reliable. All the large mining companies, especially in South America, especially in Brazil, are also using our hardware and our software solution. Now, if I look at, next slide, please, look at how we tackle innovation at Schneider Electric. We have actually two ways to look at it, and we see that on the next slide. We talk about innovation at the core on one hand and innovation at the edge on the other hand. Innovation at the core is I would say the classical innovation, the what you usually express through R&D in a company. This is the innovation that will help you become the best-in-class company in your industry. You just want to build competitive advantages, to outsmart your competitors in a known environment. You know who are the competitors. You just want to do better than them to serve your customers. You want also to perform better from a financial return standpoint with your shareholders. And for this is the first order of business. You need innovation at the core. You need R&D. Now, if you just do this, what you will build at the end is just the best-in-class company if in your industry, which is a great start. No, let's make no mistake here, but that's not enough. You need more than this. You need disruptive innovation. You need to think about the future. Why? Because simply the best-in-class company in its industry is just an incumbent, and incumbents are there to be disrupted. So this is why, on top of this innovation at the core, we also have the Innovation at the Edge program, which is about investments, incubation, partnerships, collaboration with entrepreneurs, with universities, with venture capitalists, with private equities, with other large companies with whom we are building new businesses, and we are building the next portfolio of businesses for Schneider Electric. And if we look at the world of Industry 4.0 and autonomy of IoT systems, or if we look at the world of energy management and the energy transition, we are facing and we are entering into disruptions. And one of the definitions of disruption is that you don't know who are going to be the competitors. So think of a world where you don't know who you are going to compete with. Maybe it's that small startup, which is today just a few people in a garage somewhere, that will become dominant. Maybe it's that other company, which is very large already, but playing a completely different sector. So you need to understand and be very humble when you step into that future of disruptive, that field of disruptive innovation, and be able to work openly, leave the entrepreneurs in charge, the people who know, the people who are creating the future, and just help them grow. But definitely, it's very difficult for a large corporation like Schneider Electric or others to be able to create the future. We are the incumbents. So if we don't want to just remain incumbents, we have to step into initiatives like this Innovation at the Edge. If we go to the next slide, what we concretely do through that program, well, we partner with entrepreneurs and startups, and we bring the best of what we can bring, which is channels, access, sometimes technology, but always being very, very respectful of what those entrepreneurs are bringing and creating themselves. For instance, we always put ourselves in a position of minority when we take a stake in one of those companies. We invest directly or indirectly in companies. We incubate companies from scratch. We create them from scratch when we don't find a startup that is solving a problem we want to solve, and then we try. We find an entrepreneur, and we help him or her create a company from scratch. And last but not least, we create joint ventures with other large corporations, just like, for instance, the joint venture we created last year with the Carlyle Group in the US around infrastructures. So the process is very simple. We look for ideas inside and outside of the company. We apply a strategy to those ideas, and we are always very, very collaborative and very humble, knowing that we bring part of the solution, but definitely we are not equipped as a large company to bring everything. This is why collaboration with incubators and or companies like SOSA is central to what we do in this Innovation at the Edge program. Next slide, what we're looking at Schneider Electric. As I said, we are in energy and automation, so very naturally, we look at what we call the new energy landscape, this energy transition, the way we generate, transport, use, share electricity is going to change dramatically. We are going to use 3 times as much electricity in 15 years from now as we do today. And there is no way the system is going to stay like it is, because it's not sustainable just to think of tripling the grid and have 3 times as many power plants as we have today, or a grid which is 3 times bigger. The grid will be, and the way we produce and use electricity will be decentralized, decarbonized, and digital. We look at how buildings and infrastructure will behave in the future, being more sustainable, being more autonomous. And of course, we look at the industry of the future and all the IoT systems that are encompassing that new form of producing. You have at the bottom a few examples of technologies we are using for that. I don't spend too much time on this. It's pretty, I would say, the pretty classical list of the usual suspects for what we are doing here. Next slide. If we look a bit at what this pandemic is bringing, what it has changed. Well, I think a few things will be different in the world we are stepping in now. Probably less different than what all of us were thinking in the middle of the beginning of the crisis 3 months ago, but different at the end. So all businesses are going to look for more resiliency. Remote working is becoming a reality. There's an acceleration of a certain number of digital transformation, which is happening now, and definitely new technologies and new innovations are going to bring and create a lot of value to small businesses and large companies. Next slide. At Schneider Electric, we tend to understand innovation around hubs, especially that disruptive innovation. So we have been focusing so far in that effort of this Innovation at the Edge program, which we launched 2.5 years ago. We have been focusing a lot on Israel, China, the US, the UK, and France. We are ready to roll out in South America, especially in Brazil and in other ecosystems where we see a lot of activity happening. So this is why we are very happy to see CNI and SOSA in this partnership, because we think that it's a good way to bridge the innovations that the two countries are producing. And for a company which is as global as Schneider Electric, it's a perfect ground where we feel we can bring something to the table and help innovators and investors across the world with this type of innovation. For instance, in Israel, we are working right now with more than 60 startups just in Israel, more than 200 at global level. Startups with whom we partner or in which we invest, and with whom definitely we create bridges and we create new business models or new technologies. Next slide. Few examples of companies in Israel with whom we partner. So Clarity, one of them, the leaders in cybersecurity with IoT. You know that cybersecurity in Industry 4.0 or in IoT environments is a completely different game from the cybersecurity we used to know in IT environments. It's completely different skills and competencies. It's a completely different way to approach and tackle the problems. Clarity is probably one of the 3 best companies in the world. Was born in Israel and now being very successful across the world, equipping all the manufacturing plant of Schneider Electric. And now with Clarity, we propose a unique cybersecurity solution to our customers across the world. Next slide is Spectre, the first autonomous machine vision system, also a company with which we start collaborating now. A pretty unique value proposition, and here again, respecting the entrepreneurs and the creativity they bring and the new business model, and trying just to boost the growth of the company in Mexico, in the US, and in India, where Schneider Electric already has a strong footprint and where Spectre is looking to expand. Next slide, and if I turn to Brazil. Well, we have a few innovation cases, but we are just at the beginning of that adventure of innovation at the edge in Brazil. This is why, again, this partnership between SOSA and CNI is very important to us. Brazil is a key country, is a key economy for any multinational on the planet. You cannot be a relevant player in your industry if you're not strong in Brazil. Brazil has always been a very key geography for us. And it's key for innovation, of course. So you have an example here of what we did with Granola Farmácias in Brazil around advanced manufacturing systems, bringing all the power of our software capacities and capabilities to create something pretty unique, leading towards more efficiency, but also more sustainability for Granada. So, but again, we are just getting started, and Brazil is definitely a place where we want to invest more and where we want to be more present. Finally, my last slide. Next one, please. So our learning on innovations. It's about people. It's about people that we don't have in large corporations. So this is why we work a lot with SOSA, because this is a secret ingredient: people and entrepreneurs. And you don't find entrepreneurs in large corporations, because if you're an entrepreneur, you don't work in a large corporation. If you work in a large corporation, you're not an entrepreneur, most probably. This is about people and finding people who are ready to invest their time, their energy in new ventures, and helping them in that effort. It's about taking small bets. Usually in a corporate environment, you tend to take big bets because you are pretty sure of the return. Here, you have to bet on many different ventures because you know that many of them will fail, but a couple of them will really be there to change the world. And it's very difficult to identify which ones are going to be the ones that are going to change the world up front. It's about disruptive ideas that are always best incubated outside of large organizations. Large organizations are extremely good to scale up, to expand geographically, but for creativity, it's better to do that in small units and outside of the corporate world, which responds to other type of pressures and to other type of time horizons. For instance, to create a new company, to generate a real breakthrough innovation, it takes 5 to 7 years. This is not how you count in a large corporation. In a large corporation, public corporation, you count in quarters, and you rarely have the patience to wait for 5 to 7 years. But that's what it takes. There is no exception. It's minimum 5 years, and usually it's more 7 years. So this is why you need to take that long-term approach. And then last but not least, you have to make sure that you have the right distance between the mothership and the companies and the startups you are working with. If it's too close, if you make too many decisions, well, you lose humility, you fall into arrogance, and you just get more of the same. You don't get disruption. You just get something which is very incremental at most, and definitely you cannot create value. If it's too far away, if the mothership and the startup are too far away, well, you can have a lot of creativity, but you won't be able to create value neither for the startup nor for the corporation. So you need, in each case and at each step of the life of a startup, to really calibrate very carefully. It's an art, the distance and the connections between the startup and the corporation. So this is it. These are our learnings. And again, thank you very much and congratulations for this partnership between SOSA and CNI.
Mr. Lagarrigue, thank you very much for your participation in this meeting, for the experiences that you have reported us from Schneider. Schneider, great company also in Brazil. So for us, it is very important for Schneider to be more and more well implemented, if I may, into and working and collaborating with Brazil, with all the areas that Schneider has participated and worked with. Thank you very much for your presentation. And we always count on the possibility of discussing with Schneider these themes regarding innovation. And here in Brazil, we hope you have great partnerships, many partnerships, and may you invest in Brazil a lot more. I'd like to invite now our dear friend, dear fellow, Mr. Passos, who will make a presentation and will talk about open innovation. Pedro, you have the floor. Thank you very much for your participation. Now you can hear me? Okay, good. I was muted. So, good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure, Robson, to be with you in this great movement that CNI is leading in this partnership. Thank you, Gianna, for the invitation. Thank you, Pedro Ochomsky, for leading this business movement towards innovation. Thank you, Emmanuel, for your presentation. I believe this opens doors for many companies to understand what is the innovation process. I will talk about innovation at Natura. Natura, a Brazilian company that started in 1969, some 50 years ago, with very little capital, with very few resources. But I believe innovation was the main vector that allowed us to evolve throughout these years. So I won't talk about the whole history of innovation in Natura, but it would be quite interesting to mention a very important cornerstone in our history. It was, well, when in 1998, facing the international competition that was quite strong, our competitors, our global competitors, such as L'Oreal, Unilever, and many other companies that many times had, well, relationship with the pharmacist sector. So they had a great pipeline of innovation in terms of, well, ingredients that was quite important. And we saw ourselves facing this competitive scenario, and we decided to, well, make a conscious option that was important for our technological development, which was to invest in biodiversity. Well, Brazilian biodiversity, toward generating new knowledge and new cosmetics applications. And I believe this was a cornerstone of our innovation process in our strategy of innovation. Natura was born in 1969, where when nobody talked about environment or nature, by the very name, its very name, it was an innovation in itself, and always dedicated to a business action that is beyond the economic result and has a strong concern with its socio environmental impact. This comes from way back in the day, and towards that, we have been improving. And I'd like to, well, first of all, to present. Next slide, please. Today, Natura is a company, well, is a company that started in Brazil, but has developed a process of internationalization in the recent years, especially after 2012, with the merge with international companies, with acquisition of some of those companies. And Aesop, an Australian company, uh, in the body shop, with a in the body shop that you probably heard of, an English company, great activist environmentally. And more recently, we acquired Avon. We bought out Avon, and so we have this larger group of four companies that I believe that are quite iconic brands with a beautiful history in the segment of, well, beauty products. Next slide, please. Just a couple of figures. We are today, well, Natura and Avon have 6 million consultants or retailers. We are, over 100 countries in the world. The body shop has over 3,000 stores in the world. We have $10 billion of net revenue yearly. Collaborators and associates of, well, around 40,000. And we have made investments in the Amazon, in communities that the body shop at works at, of around 550 million. And through our social programs, we have reached over 15 million people supporting public schools in the past 10 years. And we have invested in causes related to women, such as, well, breast cancer and, well, violence against women and domestic violence, especially, of, well, around $1 billion investment towards those causes, those causes in the past 40 years. More recently, we we have a new commitment statement towards sustainability, and I will talk about sustainability quite a lot in today's presentation, because that's what drives us, and that's what gives us, well, vectors to monitor our innovation. Well, our aspiration is to innovate in order to promote economic, social, environmental positive impact, and to become a company, a beauty company, not, well, the best company in the world, but our intention is to be the best company, the beauty company for the world. And that, and within that commitment and within this framework, that we work our innovation process. So for you to understand this concept, just watch our last statement, or just look at our last commitment, this commitment to life that we have launched, that we launched at the United Nations just this month. And I'd like to show you a small clip for you. Thank you very much.
We are at a watershed moment in reshaping our world. We're the generation who has the knowledge and the technology to stem the rise in global temperatures, put an end to the global waste issue, and build a fairer, more equal society. But we need to move faster. We need to act now. Through our four international companies, we want to promote change on a global scale. It is time to make a commitment to life. Today, we commit to address the climate crisis by addressing climate change and the preservation of biodiversity. We commit to help create a world that is human right and humankind by ensuring a better organization and a decent living wage for all our people. We commit to embrace circularity and regeneration by moving beyond a circular economic model to create more than we take. But we can't do this alone. We are calling on citizens, businesses, NGOs, investors, peers, governments to fundamentally change the system together for a better future, for our planet, for life. Let's become the generation who shift from we can to we did. Join the movement. Commitment to life.
Okay. But with this commitment, with this target, that we have set goals for the next 10 years. So, so you see three columns in this slide. The first one is to face the climate crisis and protect Amazon, and to protect human rights, to be more human, and to embrace the circularity, which is regeneration. Just a couple of examples. Natura, the brand, well, is a company, let's say, carbon neutral company since 2007. Not in the industrial process simply, but all productive chain from the raw materials to the use by the consumer. And now we intend to extend this commitment to the other companies of the group that have been more recently acquired. So our commitment is the is zero net greenhouse gas emissions up to 2030 using or this science-based target initiative for all of our companies. A second example that goes towards facing this climate change will expand our position at the Amazon, well, paying better all of our suppliers of ingredients, all of our communities which with whom we work in a relationship that I will explore further on, with open innovation for these communities because they know the use of natural ingredients, and that's why we expand the pay and access to benefits that exist in Natura for 16 years. But now we want to incorporate the other companies in the group up to 2025 as the Nagoya Protocol preaches and the very biodiversity convention of the United Nations. Second column, in human rights, I believe we have a series of initiatives, but I'd like to mention the equality and gender equity with a commitment to have up to 2023, so in 3 years from now, 35% of women in the high board and 50% of women in the composition of, well, the board, as well as increasing our investment towards the causes, the women's causes, especially led by Avon for towards breast cancer and domestic violence in 20% more. And to make an investment that I believe of around $100 million in the next years towards the development of solutions for packaging, recyclable packaging, decreasing the burden, the weight of our packaging, but also the type of material. We want to have over 95% of our formulas based on natural or renewable ingredients, as well as investment towards new solution, new materials with biotechnology for the elimination of residues and plastic ingredients. As you know, plastic is one of the biggest issues, biggest problems of a, well, the biggest environmental problem that we have to tackle. So next slide, you'll see, well, here are a couple of, well, figures on innovation, and I show the picture of Natura specifically because I do not have all the integration of data or consolidation of data of the other companies that we have recently acquired, but we 2.4% of our net revenue is invested towards innovation for specifically Natura. 330 new products launched in 2019. So almost 60% of our revenue comes from products that were launched in the past 2 years. And we have 343 patents deposited. And you know, if you deal with natural products, there's a series of restrictions in patents when we deposit them. We have the first green patent. INPI, the Brazilian Institute of Patents and Innovation, they developed a program that incentives, fosters the use of solutions for green technologies and to contribute for the the fight against the climate issues. And in this program, it has established they have established the green patents, and we have the first green patent with this characteristics. We have a series of commitments, and I won't go too much into detail. For many years, we have fought against animal testing with safe ingredients. That post pandemic, well, this topic about ingredients, the controversial ingredients, post pandemic will have a lot more attention for consumers. Formulae that are more natural, for instance, for perfumes, use alcohol, but our alcohol is organic based, and uh, and then we have our commitment and our guidelines towards innovation. In this next slide, well, you'll see three strategic areas that we want to dominate to be winners in our market. First, to be leader in sustainability. The second is to expand our cosmetic experience and to have the excellence in cosmetics. Well, for that, we have here six platforms that we want to improve continuously. The first of them is, as I mentioned, the access to natural ingredients and biodiversity, the pan Amazonic biodiversity for Natura brands, and where we incorporate biotechnological knowledge to be able to identify those ingredients and their main activity in the cosmetics department. And the second one is eco design. We'll try and find forms or try and find formulae of products and packages in packaging that is more renewable, that is that obeys more the circular principle for us to be able to evolve in what we believe to be a positive impact. It's not enough just to mitigate the environmental impact. We must build solutions that are that bring regeneration throughout time. And the third is the science applied to skin, to hair treatment, with the development of a performance. There is a lot of that's very sophisticated. In microbiota is one of our main areas of attention. Fourth is the science of well-being. We must learn what are the things that promote the well-being, and this is a science that is improved more and more, being through human behavior or sciences of life. The fifth is future perfume or perfumery, as we call. So, and even prediction or data prediction and the database that is uses big data more and more, and you can have new formulae that are simpler and bring less environmental impact and is more effective. And obviously, they use of artificial intelligence in the formulation of new products. So those six technology platforms can give you an idea of how much we must learn, and we'll need the help of a lot of people. For that reason, we'll speak about open innovation. Our cycle of innovation, as you can see in this new slide, well, it starts in the identification of ingredients, mm, or ingredients of biodiversity that we want to find scientific evidence of their activities in our product. The second pillar of this is the ethical supply system. We must be committed that the extraction of such ingredients is not predatory for the environment, and to have a fair relationship with the communities that aid us in the production of these environments. And the third pillar is the product development with excellence. So it's not only being a natural product, it needs to be also pleasant with effective benefits for the consumers. And finally, a positive impact in the relationship with these support communities that we have as partners to aid us in innovation. As I mentioned, this is the beginning of open innovation in Natura that started back in 1998, which is the work with these communities and using knowledge, the traditional knowledge, and from that, and the use of biotechnology to develop new formulation. Next slide, we will see, well, just to give you an idea of our action in Amazon, which is one of the areas of interest. Currently, we have 28 bioactive ingredients with 33 communities supplying these ingredients, over 5,100 families in the production of these ingredients, helping then 20,000 people, over 20,000 people. That way, with the sustainable use of this ingredient, with the extraction of these ingredients in a responsible fashion, we'll we can preserve 1.8 million hectares of forests, which is not a small number. Well, it is a relatively important one, and which is equivalent the 2.5 million football fields or football pitches. 18% of all of our formulae come from pan-Amazonic uh, ingredients. And throughout the past 10 years, we have invested in the region through the supply, well, pains the supply of raw materials and sharing benefits, the development of infrastructure and support for communities, management capacity improvement, technical services, getting carbon credits and environmental service credits for these communities, or investment in science and technology in the Amazon region, and also with uh, with our factory in Amazon, where we manufacture our products through plant oils. We have a soap factory in the region. We invest 1.8 billion reais in this region. Um, we have the commitment of showing our way to explore the Amazon region in a sustainable fashion, in an intelligent way, investing in R&D and leaving the traditional models of predatory exploration that we see in the Amazon today. I just wanted to show a brief clip of how important it is the relationship with the extractivist community. Please.
Tudo começa na Amazônia, o jardim mais rico do planeta.
It all starts in the
É
Amazon,
aqui que
the
pesquisamos
richest
os
garden in
frutos,
the world.
cujos bioativos
Here
vão se
we
tornar os
research the products
ingredientes de
the
nossos
bioactive
produtos.
products that will become
Mas não
ingredients
fazemos isso
of our
sozinhos.
products. We don't do that
Se você
alone.
observar a
If you
floresta mais
observe
de
the
perto,
forest
vai
closely,
descobrir que ela
you
não tem
notice
só
that
plantas
it doesn't
e
have only
bichos.
plants and animals.
Ela também é
It's
feita de
made
gente.
also it's made of people.
Gente que está aí há muitas e muitas
People
gerações.
who have been
Gente que
here for
vive
many
da
generations.
floresta,
People
que
who
mantém
live
vivo
on the forest
conhecimento
and
sobre
keep
o uso
alive
de
the
suas
knowledge on the
plantas e
use of the
frutos.
plants and fruit.
Essas pessoas são
These
nossos
people are our
guias.
guides.
São elas que nos contam
They
os
are the ones who
segredos e
tell us the
maravilhas do
secrets
jardim.
and wonders of that garden.
A intensa parceria com
The
as
intense
comunidades
partnership with the
tradicionais
traditional
é dos
communities is
diferenciais de
one
nosso
of the
modelo de
advantages of
negócio.
our business model.
Ela fortalece
It
e
strengthens
valoriza as
and values
comunidades,
communities,
oferecendo
offering
mercado mais
a
justo para a
more just
comercialização de
market
seus
for the
frutos.
trade of their products.
Em nossos
In our
laboratórios,
labs,
cada
each
fruto tem
fruit
seus
have
bioativos
their bioactive
investigados para a criação de
capabilities
fórmulas que
investigated for the creation
potencializem
of
seus
formulae that
benefícios,
potentialize their
gerando produtos
benefits,
de alta
generating
performance.
high performance
Cada vez que
products.
você
Every
escolhe um
time
produto Natura
you
Ecos,
choose a
você
Natura
coloca em
Ecos
ação
product,
essa cadeia
you put in action this
sustentável.
sustainable
Nossa rede
chain
ganha mais vida,
or network,
vira beleza em
gains more life,
movimento,
becomes
pois
beauty
parte dos
and
recursos
development and
volta às
movement.
pessoas que vivem na
Because part of
floresta.
those resources
Fazendo
go back
isso,
to the
a
people in
gente
the forest. And
ajuda a
doing that,
promover o
we help
desenvolvimento
promoting
das
the development
comunidades,
of these
um
communities,
incentivo
an incentive for them to continue valuing the forest and for nature to generate more and more. Natura echoes. Nature generates beauty. This video is just to soften the hearts of engineers who are watching this lecture and just to show this fun side, which is because it is amazing to work with these communities and we learn so much from them in these regions. And I just wanted to go to this next slide. Well, besides product and technology innovation towards products, well, we have here a business model innovation. Well, I said that we are a network of 6 million uh, salespeople and retailers in over 100 countries. What we're seeing is this huge possibilities, this great avenue that we have in front of us of innovating, embarking technology for these people to, well, do from direct sales something that is has a better experience compared to what was a traditional direct sales, and this will transform into social selling as we call it, where the salespeople they have their content, they have their own web pages, and promote relationships with their consumers through the different platforms that we have existing today. And this embarkment of technology, if I may, into the into the direct sales system, this is promoting a great transformation. And as incredible as it may sound, with the pandemic, we have had in a digital adoption with an amazing speed. In Brazil, we have a bit over a million beauty consultants, as we call them. For Natura, 250,000 had their own web pages and would do this social selling using digital technology. In the 3 months of pandemic, we went to we fourfold that, over a million consultants using this technology. So we're facing a world that needs a lot of knowledge, digital knowledge, the knowledge of different platforms, such as the ones I have shown, to innovate our products. So I just wanted to show you in this next slide, well, to see for you to see how we have organized ourselves. Um, we have these partners for innovation to tackle different fields as such. We have started some 20 years ago the Natura Fields product, Natura Campus project. We always have a great relationship. Natura Campus, we always have the great relationship with the university and research institutes. But Natura Campus project started in 2007 to structure a bit better our partnerships with the Brazilian Academy. The knowledge of biodiversity is the knowledge there is in different parts of university, in different universities in the country, and we've had these great results with over 575 partner organization in the past 5 years. In the second movement, a very important one indeed, that was born in 2016 was the development of Natura Startups program, where we have public requests or public calls for relevant topics, and those startups present programs that are created. As you can see in the picture, you see this funnel of relationships with the startups. So we start with we analyze 4,200, almost 4,300 proposals, and we reached 34 projects in execution and 34 partnerships, if I may. currently. So it is a source of new ideas, which is a continuous stream that we have organized in this innovation program, open innovation program. Next slide, just to give you an example. We have, well, this is the last program, is a residue program, and we launched it to find global solutions and innovative ones to fight the generation of residue and waste, in plastic waste especially. 470 over 407 570 projects have assessed from 37 countries, with three final solutions being tested and 57 solutions with potential for testing. Projects, therefore, that are submitted by startups, that are sent by research institutes. And I want to mention our partnership with Amber Pick and Professor Jorge. He's watching us at this moment. He's the leader of that. And this type of open innovation has been something that makes things feasible in a very unknown field that this technology platform has, the one that we have bet on towards the development of our products. And in this slide, just to close my presentation, that I believe I've gone over the time a little bit. Well, innovation technology for us is innovation and technology are enablers to transform social environmental challenges into business opportunities. And this is the theme that moves us, that drives us. We believe the social environment challenges, the challenges, the inequalities, the inclusion challenges. Those, they are opportunities towards technology innovation. And we have used these concepts to lead us, to guide us, to guide our R&D and innovation groups in the different areas of the company. The connection in network, the open innovation allows to expand our capacity of action. And the exchange of knowledge, the internal exchange of knowledge with these four brands has also been well, will allow us to accelerate this project. It's an enabler for the acceleration of this process, because now we count on research centers. After Avon came in, especially, so we have research centers close to New York, and in Asia, in the UK with a body shop. So we can even have a multi-centric innovation that will certainly facilitate our access to consumers and will help speed up our innovation process, that has as obligation, and I stress that, obligation to create a positive impact that we have advertised, that we have announced with this commitment to life. That's what I wanted to bring you. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm sorry to have gone a bit over the time. Thank you, Pedro. You did not. You are within your time, no problem. And for us, it's always a pleasure to see all this experience of the group of companies that you lead. We have, we are very proud in Brazil of this leadership that you exercise, and the social environmental commitments of the Natura group, and the investments that your company, that your group have made in towards innovation. This is a display for Brazil of the importance of these investments for the growth and sustainability of companies. Once again, congratulations for all of the work you have carried out for the Amazon. We need to show that more. In the world, we have seen a lot more negative facts, but as you are a great enthusiast of the Amazon preservation experience or the movement. We have other experiences that should be disclosed a lot more. Thank you, Pedro. And I'd like now to pass the floor to the CEO uh, from SOSA, Mr. Uzi Scheffer, to make his presentation. And I must say, Uzi, that well, we have great positive expectations and a certainty. We are certain of the great results of the work that we are going to do together in Brazil. You from in SOSA always lead your facilities, always make available your facilities in New York and the UK and in Israel. But now SOSA will bring Brazil and will certainly be the first platform of SOSA. Will be the first in the first place in the world. Thank you very much. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. So thank you, President of CNI, distinguished speakers and guests. So I'm Uzi Scheffer. I'm the CEO of SOSA, and I'm very excited to speak with you today. Unfortunately, not in person, but I do hope that we can meet in person soon. Our mission as a company is to help large organizations implement technologies that prepare their business to the future. The goal of our partnership with CNI is to provide a Brazilian industry with direct access to the world's leading technologies. So needless to say that we're facing very challenging times now worldwide and in Brazil in particular, but the COVID-19 pandemic didn't really create new revolutions the way we see it. It has rather accelerated the adoption of technologies in many sectors. It had also made it clear that organizations need to source solutions from the outside in order to cope fast with the current challenges and prepare for the aftermath. And we're here exactly for that. So in my presentation today, I will try to give you a taste of Israel, of our global network, some trends in Industry 4.0, the way we see them, and some case studies on what we do. Next slide, please. So our global footprint includes our centers in Tel Aviv, in New York, and in London, and strategic partnerships in Australia, Spain, and now we're very happy to be in Brazil as well. We choose to expand to locations where we can access, on one hand, first-in-class technologies, and on the other hand, large industry players. Next slide. Among our clients, you can find world-leading companies such as Schneider Electric, obviously, of course, and Siemens, which we will also hear today in the event, HP, RBC, and other giants from the world. On a yearly basis, we identify more than 2,000 technologies that can support our clients' strategies, and we further work with our clients on validating these technologies and support their implementation. Next slide, please. So SOSA was founded in Israel, and I assume that some of you have visited Israel or know about it, but I assume that some of you don't. So just to give you a little more perspective on how this is all started, let's speak a little bit about Israel with the next slide. So we have the Mediterranean Sea only on the west, but de facto Israel is really an island, geopolitically wise. We have no natural resources. Well, we found natural gas now, but the economy still doesn't really rely on that. We don't really feel it yet. We have no real market in terms of size, nothing that comes close to the Brazilian market, obviously. Point number two, in Israel, there is a mandatory military service. It's about 3 years for guys and about 2 years for girls. This is something very significant in the life of Israelis. The result of that is that Israelis are exposed to advanced technologies at a relatively young age. They also gain a lot of self-confidence, and all this makes a very good infrastructure for entrepreneurship. We are a country of immigrants, and immigrants are entrepreneurs by nature, simply because they came somewhere where there is nothing, and they need to build their life and to build their country from scratch. And when doing that, science and innovation has always been a key pillar when building Israel, when building the country. Actually, our leading science institutions, the Weizmann Institute and the Technion, were established before the country itself. So we always needed to find innovative ways to survive and to grow. Let's speak about the culture a little bit. The Israeli culture is quite open and direct. It may sound sometimes even a bit rude, but in general, I would say that our partners from all over the world, they learn to appreciate it and to see how efficient it is to do business and to move forward fast. I will also say that based on the past 2 years in which we've been working with the amazing CNI team, crafting this program, we feel that there is a very, very good cultural connection between Israelis and Brazilians, and this is maybe the most important pillar. And last but not least is the involvement of the Israeli government. We have been supporting the high-tech sector since its early days, some 25 years ago, with funding to early-stage companies, with incentive, with the incubator program, and with different initiatives. Next slide. So if we look a little bit at Israel by the figures, you will find a country with a slightly over 9 million people, with a GDP of $355 billion, which comes to 43,000 per capita. And a few interesting statistics that show that Israel is #1 in the world in researchers per million population, in engineers per capita, in R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP. And some publications show that Israel has the highest VC investment per capita. Some researchers rate Israel as second. So for the presentation today, I chose the one who ranked it first. Next slide, please. So the result of these circumstances, geopolitical, and the culture, is a vibrant technology ecosystem with over 7,000 startups, with hundreds of investors, accelerators, incubators, an ecosystem with a $33 billion ecosystem value. But what's really interesting in this slide, in my opinion, is the presence of multinational companies in Israel. So over 500 MNCs have established their presence in Israel, many of them around their open innovation activity, meaning they are sourcing advanced technologies from Israel. And this is very important because it shows that the Israeli market is very experienced in working with global organizations, which brings us to the next slide. In terms of types of technologies, or maybe just one dimension that we can see here, is that most of the Israeli entrepreneurs develop B2B solutions. We see 72% B2B solutions versus 28% B2C solutions. So whether they're targeting the manufacturing sector or utilities or energy, logistics or banking, Israelis tend to develop scalable solutions, and they look for large companies and large markets as the target markets. This is why there are so many large MNCs in Israel, and this is why the opportunity for Brazilian companies in Israel is so big. Next slide, please. Just a few notable M&As. So from the biggest one, from Mobileye, over $15 billion acquired by Intel through Waze. Just to give you a little taste of the scalable companies that grow from the Israeli ecosystem. I guess you all know Waze, or most of you, the navigation app, and to a very interesting and incredible deal just 2 months ago, at the end of April, in the midst of the pandemic, NVIDIA, who acquired Mellanox for $6.9 billion. Next slide, please. And if we take a look at Israeli companies listed on Nasdaq, we can also see some names that I guess many of you know, like Amdocs and NICE and Verint. We have cybersecurity giants. We have Checkpoint. We also have CyberArk, and we have Wix, also traded on Nasdaq. Wix is also a very interesting case because that's another company that has experienced a very significant growth, specifically in the past 2 months during the pandemic. Next slide, please. So I won't be spending too much time speaking about New York because I know that you're probably much more familiar with the States and with New York compared to Israel. But next slide, please. I'll just say that our New York Center is a very important part of our partnership with CNI and of this project. And having a center in New York is very much complementary to Tel Aviv, as it offers us visibility into thousands of more companies, which are somewhat different. We can see here the ecosystem value, which is more than double the ecosystem value in Tel Aviv. So that implies that companies in New York are more later stage. We can also find more consumer-facing solutions in New York. So having this gives us a good global coverage and perspective. Next slide, please. Let's speak a little bit about Industry 4.0. Another slide. So the main developments that we see in this space are as follows. First and outmost, IoT and big data, of course. So the term IoT really implies to the use of sensors, control systems, machine-to-machine communications, and so on. It basically enables machine to communicate without human interface, and this really is the backbone of Industry 4.0. Obviously, when we speak about communication, we add to that the 5G network revolution, which is imperative, because with the amounts of data collected within a network, that doesn't slow us down. Now, having this huge amount of industrial big data is where things get interesting, and you can really start leveraging on the power of software. So whether it's supply chain evolution or optimizing operations, right, implementing AI and machine learning tools can help reduce the amount of needed manual labor while increasing productivity and predicting market shifts. And this is all software. All that magic is software. The next logical step in integrating hardware and software leads to robotics and automation. And many say that the full realization of Industry 4.0 revolution lies in robotics, or also in cobots, collaborative robots, collaborating with other machines, and collaborating with humans as well. And obviously, when we connect the world, there are always some people who are looking to exploit that, right? Technology is great, but it didn't change the human nature yet. And therefore, industrial cybersecurity is becoming a very important pillar of smart factories, and measures need to be sourced and installed. Now, Industry 4.0 is really not just about joining the trend because everybody's speaking about it, right? It's really about transforming your factory into a smart factory. Because by doing that, you will reduce production cycle times, operational costs, and you can return your investment quite quickly, especially now with the availability of solutions that you can implement on existing infrastructure without the need for heavy capital investments. So let's see a few case studies exactly on that. Next slide, please. So we'll start with 3D Signals. 3D Signals really is an incredible case study. This Israeli company was founded in 2015. They raised $26 million since, and they actually started by developing a predictive maintenance solution based on acoustic sensors. They since pivoted and moved from focusing on sensors to focusing on big data analytics. And by doing that, they create huge value by transforming old school, non-connected factories to Industry 4.0 factories. They do that on any type of machine of any manufacturer. And this is an incredible opportunity because according to Cisco, only 10% of the machinery worldwide is actually connected. And if there is no connection or no data, there is very little we can do to optimize and streamline operations. This slide also shows the result of this implementation at Samsung AG. And we can see here in the slide, 30% reduction of operating costs within 3 months, which is an incredible return on investment. Next slide, please. This case study is a beautiful case study because it shows the power of combining hardware, software, and connectivity. DSV, which is one of the world's largest and leading logistic company, was looking for a solution for one of its clients, a pharmaceutical company. Our team identified Water.io, which designed an IoT-based smart bottle caps that are able to track product use and transmit data to mobile apps. The use case that was successfully proved was the tracking of safe transport of medical supplies under strict conditions of temperature and humidity. Next slide, please. Bring. Of course, when we speak about industry and supply chain management, logistics is a very, very important part of it. And Bring is a leading delivery orchestration solution that provides enterprises with an innovative and a very efficient way to manage complex delivery operations. It uses data analysis leveraged by AI to coordinate logistics across different fulfillment channels and centers, and it increases fulfillment capacity and also improves the customer experience. This is a very powerful SaaS platform. And Bring is actually active in Brazil, and the case study that we can see here in the slide is a result of their partnership with Delivery Center Brazil. that achieved an initial cost reduction of 20% while reducing delivery times by 25%. Next slide, please. So let's look at some additional information and notable M&As in that space. First, it's worth mentioning that Israel has more than 240 Industry 4.0 companies. It's the second most in the world. We also see VC investment and M&A activity in this space on the rise. Some notable M&As here on the slide of Israeli companies include, so we start from the left, General Electric in 2017 acquiring Nurigo in order to accelerate industrial IoT business models. So they actually help companies monetize their industrial IoT applications. General Electric was actually a customer of that company about 2 years prior to the acquisition. In 2017, Honeywell acquires Israeli cybersecurity company Next9. Company produces software to protect, among other things, industrial sites from cybersecurity attacks. And the plan was for that company to be the base of Honeywell's industrial cyber R&D activities moving forward. In 2019, we saw DuPont acquiring the Salitech. Salitech lowers the cost of reverse osmosis water treatment by 20 to 60%. In 2019, we saw a predictive maintenance company, Presenso, acquired by Swedish industrial company SKF. And Presenso capabilities allow production plants to identify and act on anomalies that were previously very difficult to detect. And the last headline in the lower right corner is actually a headline from just a week ago, which again, incredible to see it in the current environment. Microsoft is set to acquire Israeli CyberX for $165 million to accelerate and secure customers' IoT deployments, including legacy operations and industrial control system environments. So this is another impressive deal right in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis that demonstrates that the need for technologies is only increasing. So how does all this happen? Let's see the next slide, please. And one more slide. So open innovation is really the activity of engaging, working with, and partnering with external companies, ideas, and technologies in order to solve problems and support future strategies. It doesn't come to replace internal R&D, it doesn't come to replace internal processes, but it is clear today to almost all companies that they need to launch an effective innovation activity. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought such urgent and immediate challenges that it has become clear that in many areas, the only way to solve problems fast is by sourcing solutions from the outside. And the fact is that these solutions, or many of them, already exist. Next slide, please. We believe that a successful open innovation process includes the following phases. So we usually start with setting the strategy, short-term and long-term. And in this phase, we not only listen to the management's vision, but we actually do two more things, which I find very important. First, we share data and knowledge on where sectors are heading to and what we see in that space. And we are many times active partners in shaping the strategy. The second, and it comes back to the keynotes before me, who said that eventually it's all about the people. So we conduct this phase not only with the management, but also with the business units, with the people who will be the internal innovation leaders. And I cannot stress enough how much these people are critical for the success of the process. We then proceed to identifying the most promising, usually market-ready solutions that can solve our clients' challenges. Our teams of analysts have a personal relationship with many of the leading startups, and we cover the industry in an objective and unbiased manner, which is very important in this activity. When our corporate partners then choose which companies they wish to work with, we support the engagement with different formats that we've developed, from private demo days to corporate challenges, formats that were developed in order to help structure the activity, but also really help achieve results. And with results, I mean actual implementations of technologies that transform businesses. Next slide, please. So our programs are very dynamic. They're also cross-vertical. And this is very important because all organizations need a wide variety of solutions, right? It's not just about predictive maintenance or cybersecurity. It's about an holistic approach that brings in different types of technologies to help transform your business. It's also very important for us to keep a practical mindset. We are a very practical company. Everything we do is aimed towards results. We don't really do theoretical exercises or conduct research on non-practical topics. The bottom line is that we combine practical methodologies for success with access to the top technologies. So it's all about results, which brings us to the almost last slide for today. On a yearly basis, our teams identify and introduce more than 2,000 technologies to our corporate clients, which turn into hundreds of highly curated meetings and between 70 to 100 deals closed per year. This is eventually what we are measured on. So with that, and before closing my presentation, I would like to thank again the president of CNI for the vision and the partnership. I would like to thank Gianna Sagazio, Innovation Head Director at CNI, for making this happen. And I invite all of you to take advantage of this opportunity and to join our global innovators as we transform industries and look into the future. I hope to meet you in person very soon. Stay safe. Obrigado. Thank you. Toda rabah.
Thank you, Uzi. We believe a lot in this partnership, and we hope in a shorter deadline we can meet in person, maybe when the markets are more open. But be sure that in Brazil, a continental country, well, we have the opportunity, we have many business opportunity for the south and southeast, because as we saw in the presentation of Pedro Passos, Brazil is for entrepreneurs, for people who may produce and generate wealth in Brazil. I pass the floor. I think I'd like to thank Uzi, and I pass the floor to Mr. Gaus for the automation of Siemens, that he will talk about a corporate innovation in the industry of the future. Norbert, thank you very much for your participation.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this exciting event. I did enjoy the previous speakers quite a bit, from our hosts, from SOSA and from CNI, especially SOSA with this impressive portfolio. Then, of course, from my competition, from Schneider, from Uzi, and then also I have to say from Pedro, a very different view, on the consumer side, on a very different type of industry, and with a nice video to, as you said, to soften the heart of the engineers. I can tell you, Pedro, that at least with one engineer, it did work. Also, I have to say that I do find the online format works pretty well, much better than I thought it would. But I have to also admit that instead of sitting here in front of a webcam, I would much rather be with all of you in Brazil, but maybe the next time. And I would be really looking forward to this. Now, coming to the topic of the talk, at a time when many talks about innovation in industry look about future potential of disruption or current potential for disruption, let me tell you that industry is being disrupted already. And in many areas and in many ways. Accelerating on innovation, I believe, is the only way for industrial companies to disrupt instead of being disrupted. In the end, it is either you are at the table or you are on the menu. And I think we all are here to be at the table and not on the menu. So let's come to the first slide. Now, while you see big numbers here, Siemens is a big company, so we are supposed to have big numbers. The message is a different one. And there's two messages on this one. First, accelerating innovation also means accelerating R&D budgets. That's in the end, it's a commitment on R&D that is also shown on on R&D budgets in some ways. Now, it's not a guarantee through money to innovate, but it's a prerequisite. And we have significantly increased in the last 5 years our R&D spend, and we have to. And the second message is that even in the face of a huge crisis and challenge like COVID is for all of us, even in the face of such a crisis, we just cannot afford, and we are convinced that we cannot afford to cut down on R&D. Because when the crisis is over, we need to be even stronger than before. So we are not planning on R&D because we are convinced that this is our lifeblood. So let's go to the next slide, where I try to explain on how digitalization is changing our industry fundamentally. Whenever I try to do this or attempt to do this, I use a slide like this. And let me start with the bottom part of the slide. I mean, there you see industrial devices, solutions, and plants. Now, all of these are undergoing significant changes. All of those devices and plants, they get connected and they become intelligent, every single one of them. Many of them have already. A few are still to be connected and to be made intelligent. They all have sensors, and these sensors generate a wealth of data. An increasing portion of this data is being processed locally in the field by the field and edge devices. And some of those process data and some of the sensor data also go directly in the cloud. So on this bottom part of the slide, which is really the legacy of an industrial company, it used to be about differentiating on the features of the hardware. This was the past. Today, it's about differentiating on hardware and software. And the majority of the differentiation happens on the software side of things. Now, if you look at the top part of the slide, you see the industrial product lifecycle. Now, from designing a product or a plant, producing or constructing, operating, and then providing service and maintenance efficiently. Now, increasingly, we have built ourselves, acquired or providing to our customers a consistent and tightly integrated tool to help us and our customers to very efficiently design our products or their products, then with a feed-forward loop, basically, to semi-automate how to plan production to build those products that have been designed, or construct the plants that have been designed, optimize operation, providing service and maintenance efficiently. So we have feed-forward loops. Product design, for example, can define to a large extent how to plan the production, and we have feedback loops where, for example, operational data is used to improve the product. So Siemens has invested heavily in the last 15 years to become more of a software company. Now, in between the top and the bottom layer, we need what we call an IoT platform. This platform has a few tasks. First and foremost, to host the data coming from the field, to also host the application you see on top of it. It has to be able to provide industrial-grade, secure connectivity to all those devices. And it provides an ecosystem for us, our customers, our partners, and our suppliers to build an increasing number of applications. Now, with all of this, Siemens is known for the devices, for the, as an industrial company, but we have become, in the last 15 years, one of the largest European software companies. So we have changed significantly, and the pace of this change is not slowing down at all. If anything, then it's increasing. So let's look at a few examples on the next slide on where we innovate along the industrial life cycle. On the top left, you see a few charts describing enhanced product design, where with the help of artificial intelligence, we drive what we call generative design. With generative design, what's happening there is, instead of typical design, tries to limit the design space so that time-consuming simulations are limited in number. We broaden the design space as much as we can, and we use artificial intelligence to deselect those options coming out of the design that do not have a good probability of a simulation that would converge. So on the one side, we broaden the design space, opening up more options. At the same time, we deselect those options very quickly so that we can afford to broaden the design space. So this is on the design. On the top right, you see that with direct input from product design on how to plan its production, we can simulate and optimize the simulation. And after simulation, and when we have defined and decided on how productization looks like, we can kind of automatically generate the PLC code out of the production planning. So as you see again, we are integrating along the product lifecycle management cycle, tool by tool integration. On the bottom left, you see what I think is a revolution in production, based on our Simatic Edge device with its integrated Neuro AI processor, bringing AI into the heart of the factory. The application you see there is robotic universal picking, which has been a challenge in industry for a very long time. The approach we are taking there, together with the University of California in Berkeley, is instead of training on picking many different kinds of objects, the machine itself is trained to scan for available potential picking positions. Then it evaluates all those positions and comes up with the optimal one, and then autonomously the machine picks up based on the selection of the optimal positioning. Then on the right side, then all of a sudden, we've gone from design to production planning to production, and now in operation. What I think is a great example, large motors. It's very critical during operation to monitor the temperature very tightly. If the temperature goes above a certain threshold, then these motors have to be switched off for quite some time. The more accurate you can monitor this temperature, the less downtime you would come up with. Unfortunately, where the critical temperature happens, you cannot measure the temperature directly. So we need real-time simulation during operation. Now, the design model of such a motor requires high-performance computing for simulation, which you cannot do in the field. In the field, you basically have an industrial PC at best available for simulation. So we need a substantially reduced model. Typically from a design model that has the order of roughly 1 million, we have to come down to the order from a model order of roughly 100. And we do this model order reduction not in a traditional way because we cannot be accurate enough. We do it with artificial intelligence methods. So I think this slide explains a few examples of innovation across the whole product lifecycle. So we really have to cover it in a very holistic way. Now, after the examples, let me look at the next slide and come to a more systematic view on what is happening on edge and field devices. And now let me go from left to right. In the industrial sectors, we have a product life cycle that is, depending on the markets you are looking at, somewhere between 15 and 30 years. So we must not neglect the installed base. We have a huge installed base, and we have to protect the investments of our customers from the past. So what's happening there in many aspects is, looking at the installed base, enhancing it with a few sensors, connecting through gateways in a very secure way, usually into a cloud. There's a little bit of compute power also on these gateways and sometimes even on the sensors, but the majority of data processing then would happen in a cloud scenario rather than on an edge scenario. We also have now to make sure that we can manage those devices over time. that we keep it secure, that we update and upgrade our gateways, and to some extent, even the sensor devices in the field. So it's about secure connectivity, securing investment, and managing those new devices or those upgraded and enhanced devices. So this is now maybe not the most technological challenging piece of it, but from a business point of view, both for our customers, but also for us, one of the highest priority we have. Now, if we come to edge computing, which is the pillar you see in the middle of the slide, all of a sudden it's much more exciting because it's about the new devices, it's about the smart devices, which have many sensors, which generate data, which process data in the field, either directly on the field device or on our smart edge devices. And in some cases, data gets directly managed, directly transferred into a cloud environment, either the direct data or even process data. So we have solid processing power, we have application deployment onto those edge devices, but also onto the field devices. Now, from managing a few devices, what you have on the left side, all of a sudden, the challenge is we have to be able to manage many devices over a very long life cycle. We have to define software and hardware stacks that support an industrial life cycle, not the classical IT life cycle. We all can afford to buy a new cell phone or smartphone every 3 or 5 years. We cannot tell our customers to buy a new train after 3 years because it's end of service, or 5 years. So we have to find hardware and software stacks, and we do, that support an industrial life cycle. And then we have to manage a large amount of data. The future really is even more exciting because we are working on devices that do interact in a smart way. This would be devices in the field, in a plant or in a factory that know about the skills they have, that are able to understand complex tasks, and then are able to collaborate so that they jointly can fulfill this task. In a factory, this would be basically they know the machines know their skills. They understand from a BOM and a BOP what needs to get done, and then they find the way how to produce the product on their own without any engineering or with very little engineering. So the overall target is to reduce engineering. The vision would be even getting to zero engineering. So we have a distribution of skills. We have a distribution of compute power. We have a self-orchestration and autonomy in the field. Now, from mass device management, all of a sudden, we have to also go to system management. We have to understand how to manage a large variety of devices, dependencies between those devices. These are the complexities we are all facing when we're talking of seamless edge to cloud computing, covering new devices, covering legacy devices, very important for our customers and for ourselves, and then moving towards autonomous devices step by step. So this is the overview on the edge. And now let me come on the next slide also to, before I show you a few more examples on artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about big data, artificial intelligence. When it comes to AI for industrial applications, there's a few challenges. First of all, typically we have very few data sets compared to what our colleagues in the B2C environment have. A large data set would be maybe 100 to 150,000, which is a tiny number for companies like Google or Facebook or Microsoft or Twitter. So we have to be able to deal with a comparatively small number of data. It's in the thousands versus many millions. There's a reluctance to share data. There's a reluctance to trust AI. And in many cases or in many markets, there's a regulation in place which is not AI-minded or understanding AI. What you see here is a framework we have built at Siemens that helps us across all of our businesses to adopt industrial AI in a large number of our businesses at scale. We need to be able to scale this. There's a color code in these tiles. The color code means that the light gray is, topics we either buy off the shelf or even get from open source, things we need, but where we do not differentiate, like AI tools or workflows like Spark and Nine, libraries like TensorFlow, Keras, NumPy, and others. On the green ones is where we bring our industrial differentiation and our industrial knowledge into AI. We build pre-trained models for transfer learning, anomaly detection, object recognition. We use model compression and model deployment to deploy the models efficiently and effectively on AI hardware. We spend a lot of effort to build industrial knowledge graph, bringing basically context to content that is available. And in the end, a knowledge graph is a formalized domain know-how. We define industrial algorithms and services. Examples would be labeling of time series data, data cleansing, which still takes a lot of time if you try to build an AI application. So this is what we believe a very systematic approach to scale industrial AI, and it drives adoption also not only for cloud-based applications, but also towards the edge. And we have found that with this systematic approach, we have been able to significantly cut the effort and time by at least 50% of building AI-based applications. A few of them are shown on the next slide. Trying to show a broad variety, but we have in the end we have a 3-digit number of already implemented AI use cases in our company, and even a larger number of potential use cases in our pipeline, which we constantly evaluate. On the upper right, you see an autonomous prototype for an autonomous tram that really perceives its environment in a secure way, which can predict what is happening in the environment and then autonomously takes decisions. So we have an autonomous tram. So we are basically teaching trams to drive without drivers. On the bottom right, you see oil and gas preventive maintenance. We have started at least 15 to 20 years ago with predictive maintenance that does already provide a huge value to plants, especially to those kind of plants, because it's usually very high maintenance cost. So and even higher downtime cost. So knowing when downtimes can occur and even to go for planned downtimes and then as short as possible downtimes was already a huge value gain. Today we do preventive maintenance in many cases, which means we can avoid downtime by fine-tuning the operational parameters and then in a lot of cases avoid downtimes or at least push them out for a long time. On the left, you see a CNC edge device, the numeric edge, which brings AI basically into machining. We already have for our customers a broad variety of AI-based applications. For example, for continuously monitoring and optimizing the machining process. You have to know that during machining, the CNC generates real-time data at very high frequency. Approximately 500 hertz, producing something like 2 gigabytes of data per hour. Now, if you have 2 gigabytes of data per hour, you can easily imagine that you have to process the data in the field. The cost of connectivity would be way too high, let alone the availability of a connectivity into a cloud for 2 gigabytes of data from one machining application. So that's why we have, and we need to use powerful edge devices with powerful applications on the edge to do all this. So it's not that it's a fight between the edge and the cloud. It's a pure necessity that edge devices need to be able to process a large part of the locally produced data, simply because it's so much data that is being produced. So let's go to the next slide. Now it is not a direct relation to COVID, but it became one. A couple of years ago, we started to provide remote outage service support, giving local supervision personnel a mobile gear that would allow them in a plant to really show to then central experts what the status is in the field, that would allow the experts in the headquarter to push information from the headquarter, design data, support information to the local field. The initial use case, which by the way was very successful, was to extend our reach to customers in high-risk countries with travel restrictions or very difficult or time-consuming travel, so that we could support outages fairly quickly, helping our customers to not have very high downtimes, lose a lot of revenue. We even extended this then later to a remote factory acceptance test, making it possible today for hundreds of our large plants, devices, systems to have an acceptance test from our customers totally remote. We would have the system still at our sites. We have an expert with the same personal mobile gear that would allow this expert to show every single thing around this system to the customer. We have different video streams. We have video in video, so that there is a large number of information and streams which can be prioritized and picked also by the customer. With the test engineer, we have a media expert that works with the customer to always provide the information that they want to see. So we are in the process of moving outage support and acceptance tests and many other tasks also to being able to do this remote. Why this has been a significant success and saving cost on our side, and also bringing us business which we could not go for before. During the pandemic, the demand on these solutions has been skyrocketing. A similar experience, probably like for online meeting, online meeting companies did see on those products. It's a huge success, and it's not only a business success. It really helped us in many cases to provide business continuity during the pandemic. So it was a very successful transfer from extending the reach to providing business continuity in face of a crisis. So after these many examples, let's go to the next slide. With the examples I touched probably on quite a few of what we call company core technologies, like edge and connectivity, like artificial intelligence, automation, the digital twin, cybersecurity. But what you see here is the complete list of the company core technologies for Siemens. This is a strong focus on what our company's priorities are. It's probably not a surprising list. At the same time, the list is quite a bit longer than what it was 15 years ago. And the breadth of technologies increases faster than R&D budgets can. So the question to us had been, how can we manage this? Complexity is growing much faster than R&D budgets would. And it's, probably the reason why I'm here today, or why it was so exciting. If you look at the next slide, open innovation is really the only way how we can solve a problem like this. If you go to the next slide. So this is what you see here is trying or Siemens activities when it comes to open innovation. And we really try and work with increasing intensities on all those methods you see, from crowdsourcing to cooperation with governmental partners to the universities, which we have done for a very long time, but even that is changing in nature. Increasingly working with open source or even providing open source, managing this, working with collaboration platforms. So I can tell you its intensity is increasing over time. There's been a lot of learnings. I have to say we are far from perfect when it comes to open innovation today, but we will keep learning. Let me now make a deep dive into the second last, which is co-creation with partners, customers, and startup, and give you 3 examples of ways we address this. On the left, you see what we call MindSphere application centers, or MACs inside Siemens. Now, the idea behind this is visualization is based on, the visualization basically does generate value from data. Now, the data which are produced by products, machines, systems, devices we have manufactured and sold to our customers are then basically produced in the operations of our customers. So it's their data. They understand the context of their plant, and we understand the capabilities and the context of our systems and solutions. So if we really want to optimize what can be done with those data, we better try to jointly develop applications based on these data. This is the idea behind MindSphere application centers. We have built 20 of those, some of those in multiple locations. We're active in 20 countries, and we have more than 1,000 software developers in those application centers, working together with our customers and suppliers to go from usually proof of concepts to minimally viable products, and then to sustainable business models from co-creation. And it's not a secret, probably, and not a surprise to you, that the last step, from POCs to MVPs, then to a sustainable business model, is the hardest one. And even also there, we've had quite a few learnings, and I believe we're not done with the learnings yet. But it's a very exciting journey, both for us as well as for our partners now worldwide. Then many of you, and especially the colleagues from SOSA, have heard about Next 47. Next 47 is the startup and venture capital arm from Siemens. It's a Siemens company. It's a very pretty new. I think it's only 4 years old. They have 3 pillars of what they do. We invest in startups, and this is also where scanning. We have been working with SOSA already quite a bit in Israel, and maybe there would be new touch points going forward. They also provide in the Catalyst program outside-in support. This is really then working with some of those startups in our business units, on top of investments we have or may not have. So how can our businesses, in a very systematic way, work with those startups, understanding what startups need, what startups can provide, so that this is a win-win situation. And the third pillar is what we call create. And this is a very focused discipline with a strict process, building new businesses outside of Siemens at a very early stage, selectively creating new businesses, kind of Siemens startups. These are 3 areas where Next 47 is active. And if the next slide then shows the third pillar of our co-creation efforts, and this is what we call a Siemens AI lab. We have typically Siemens has large sites for our people. It's a big company, so typically our sites are a little bit outside of whichever city, here in Munich or in Erlangen or in Princeton or wherever we are. Now, what we do with our AI labs is just a very small team, a handful of people. We take them out of our campus and put them right into the middle. For example, in Munich is where we had the first AI lab in the middle of the city. No big company sign. The task there is to open up our AI activities to the local and regional AI community, both internal and external. So it's off campus, it's easy to get to, addressing the need for knowledge transfer. There's 100% focus to connect AI experts to potential use cases. Now, the first lab was in Munich. We then started in Berkeley. Beijing is just about to start, also Moscow, our other sites from corporate technology. And it's always tailored to local opportunities. So the flavor of a AI lab in Berkeley or in Beijing is certainly quite a bit different to what we do in Munich, but the basic idea is always the same. Now, here on this slide, you see that we do two things. One is projects, and then we also have events, to manage our communities. On the projects, we offer three different things currently. And it also started much smaller than what you see here. It's short workshops, 1 day, half a day, team workshops, or acceleration sprints. Just a few days, a week at most, where we do coding sprints. A few experts, customers, people from our business units, or we even offer a researcher in residence program now, where we bring renowned researchers from strong universities, typically postdocs for something like 9 to 12 months into our AI lab, and then we see where it takes us. So this is the breadth we try to cover on open innovation, and especially when it comes to co-creation, the three examples I was showing you. That actually was my last slide. Really, if you click one more time, I hope you found this interesting as a mix of technology vision for IoT digitalization, and what this means and why we have the approach on open innovation we do have. And really now I'm looking very much forward to hear your thoughts, your questions, suggestions on what we do, and maybe what we could be doing in the past a bit better than what we do already, or maybe even together. But thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Norberto. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I would like to put on record that you are invited to come to Brazil to visit us as soon as possible. It will be a great pleasure having you here.
I will come.
I'd like to remind you that it's been 4 years since we started investing in a network of labs that focus on technology and innovation. Today, we are managing 28 innovation labs in Brazil, and they have all been deployed strategically in many different regions in Brazil. We also have many different technology labs, and we have invested more than $2 billion over the past 4 years in these labs. And we also have a very strong partnership with the Fraunhofer Institute, which has been helping us in the management and creation of this lab network. And This is another reason for us to integrate all of these labs and all of this infrastructure together, and to make all of this infrastructure also available to the different industries in Brazil. Now we are going to move on to our questions and answers session, and I'm going to pass the floor to Gianna so that she can lead this session. And I'd like to thank you once again for your participation. Well, first of all, I would like to take the opportunity and thank Dr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson, for the strategic view that he's had and he has in supporting this project, which is very important for CNI to support companies in the process of open innovation and also to connect to the rest of the world. I would also like to congratulate Emmanuel Lagarrigue and Pedro Passos, Uzi Scheffer, our strategic partner, and Norbert Gaus for their presentation, for their brilliant presentation. They have all been very inspiring as well. We've got a lot of questions here, but before I make the questions, I would like to inform the participants, actually the audience, that we might not have time to answer all the questions. So if you're interested in our project and if you'd like to ask questions, please send an email to innovacom@cni.com.br, or the phone number area code 6133179494. So now I'll ask two questions which are very similar, and we've gotten them on YouTube. The first question comes from the quality company, and it was made by Pedro, the director of the company. Can you explain the reach of this partnership for companies in our routine? What will we access and what will we be able to use in practice? The second question comes from Charles Berceau from Commanders. How will open innovation, SOSA's open innovation, be made available to small and medium-sized companies? So we have this partnership between CNI and SOSA. We are going to work together. The companies that are interested in this partnership can get in contact with us, and we are going to be holding virtual meetings currently, maybe in person soon. And during these meetings, we will be able to explain in detail all the opportunities that will be made available on this joint platform. And we will also talk about all of the different innovation services. Just as a reminder, we have mentioned many of them here. We have, for example, Corporate Challenge, which is a challenge for companies that want to find innovations that they know that they need, or maybe the company wants to study some sort of disruptive technology that is somewhere in the world, and then that can help the development of the company, or can help the company get better results. Of course, there is a methodology that is going to be applied. There is a lot of data involved, a lot of information involved, but that's how we can have the connections. And we are going to have different innovation services that are going to connect companies in Brazil from different areas and different sizes, and we are going to connect them with the technologies that are available in the world. We are talking about disruptive technologies that can be applied for the product, the services, or also a new business model. And we are looking for technologies that are going to help companies be more innovative. The second question goes for Pedro Passos. This question is from Tadeu Santana. Pedro, can you hear me? Are there other Brazilian biomes that could be tapped into as well? Why not? Why don't you use the Brazilian savanna or the other biomes that we have in Brazil? Well, In Brazil, we can definitely use other different biomes. I believe that the Atlantica forest has a lot of biodiversity. Even though we've seen a lot of damage in that area, there we just have 12% of it still preserved. But also, when you're talking about other biomes, such as the Brazilian savanna and the Caatinga, we can find many interesting possibilities there. But we decided to focus our effort on the Amazon so that we could show that it's possible for us to do research and and development in this area, and also use the local workforce, bringing benefits to the local workforce as well. And we've shown that this is possible without having to destroy the forest. We're not saying that we are going to solve the problem, because the problem in the Amazon is just huge. We know that the Amazon is huge and is also very important, but we have decided to focus our research efforts and our production efforts in this area so that we could build a relationship also with the communities. I believe this is the most critical ecosystem, given the influence the Amazon has over the climate in the whole world. So I think the whole world actually should be focusing on this area. But that does not mean that we shouldn't look for ingredients in other biomes in Brazil. Brazil, as you know, has a lot of diversity. And we would definitely be able to find many different alternatives as well. But given our scale, we have decided to just focus on the Amazon for now. Thank you very much, Pedro. We are running out of time, so I would just like to inform you that the other questions are going to be replied via email, or we are going to contact you directly. So now I'd like to pass the floor to Uzi so that he can make his final remarks. And then I will just close the meeting. Uzi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gianna. So I will take the opportunity and answer maybe the second question, because it referred to medium-sized companies, and with this we will close the session. And I will say that it's true that the big companies are doing, some of them are doing incredible things, and it's true that many things cost a lot of money. But I think that the open innovation practice in this area is very much suitable for medium-sized companies. I think that for many startup companies, having a design partner which is a medium-sized company many times is very beneficial and very attractive. And I certainly invite all medium-sized companies in Brazil to participate in the activities as well. So I think it was good to have a question from a medium-sized company and not only speaking and hearing about giants. And with that, I will say again that we are very excited. The opportunity is huge. The bridge has been built by forming this partnership with CNI. There is a lot to do, like we heard from the speakers, from Natura, from Siemens, from Schneider Electric. There is a lot to do. Many solutions are available and market ready. The COVID-19, again, has only stressed and accelerated some revolutions that were already there, and we are very happy to be here virtually. We look forward to welcoming you in person. This is SOSA Tel Aviv behind me. This is not a picture. So we are open locally now in Tel Aviv and in New York, also officially starting today. And we look forward to realizing this partnership and to really help you make an impact on your business. So thank you very much again, Gianna, and thank you to all the speakers as well.
I'd like to thank everybody that's here, that all the representatives as well that have been following our online meeting. This initiative is a result of the constructive discussions that we've had so far to try and help Brazil develop even further. So I think it is very important for us to recognize the role of the leaderships of May in this partnership as well. I'd like to thank Uzi and Ronnie, who is with them. I'd like to thank you for these 2-year partnership, for this 2-year discussion that we've held, so that so that we have held so far. And I'll also like to thank also the different teams here at CNI, and especially my team in the area of innovation. All the members have really worked hard and have really helped us in the process so that we can have this amazing open innovation platform in Brazil for the different companies. So thank you very much.